This is the Washington Times front page for Thursday, November 17th, 2022. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Republicans have clinched a majority in the U.S. House of Representatives, though several undecided races still will determine how slim their margin will be. Susan Ferricchio reports Republicans reached the 218-seat threshold after the race in California's 27th congressional district was called for Republican Mike Garcia. There are a handful of outstanding races that could tip to Republicans, giving them critical breathing room they'll need to pass bills and elect a speaker. But their advantage could be historically small, which could make life difficult in the majority. Across the Capitol, legislation to enshrine marriage equality into federal law cleared a key procedural hurdle in the Senate with bipartisan support. Ramsey Touchberry reports the Respect for Marriage Act passed cloture 62-37, ending debate on the bill. All 50 Senate Democrats voted for it, joined by 12 Republicans. A vote on final passage hasn't been scheduled, but is expected to pass easily with a simple majority. The bill would codify into law the Supreme Court's ruling making same-sex marriage a federal right, but with exemptions for religious organizations not to participate. That clause secured the Republican votes needed for the act to pass cloture. You can read all of these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. You can also find our entire lineup of news, commentary, and sports podcasts at WashingtonTimes.com/podcasts. Analysts who once warned that Ukraine stood little chance of holding out for long against a bigger, better-armed Russia now say they must be wary of overconfidence and overestimation of the difficulties that lie ahead. The Russian army is still entrenched in large parts of Ukraine's disputed Donbas region, and the battle lines in the eastern portion of Ukraine have stabilized as the daily artillery bombardments along the front lines continue. As the invasion nears the 9-month mark, Russia has gained and maintained a significant amount of territory in the eastern and southern regions of Ukraine. Although Ukrainians have recovered large swaths of that territory, it's a minor fraction of the overall ground still occupied by Russians. Staying in Ukraine, more details have emerged about the missile that landed in Poland, killing 2 people. Mike Glenn reports the Pentagon said it agreed with the conclusion that an errant Ukrainian air defense missile was likely the cause of the explosion. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Mark Milley said Russian forces launched at least 60 missiles and perhaps as many as 100 at targets in Ukraine. He said the barrage was intended to bring suffering to Ukrainian civilians. And finally, new federal data shows long-term domestic suicide trends changed heading into the pandemic as rates fell steadily among whites for the first time and rose among blacks and Hispanics. Sean Salai reports suicide rates for non-Hispanic whites fell 7% from 18.1 for every 100,000 people in 2018 to 16.9 for every 100,000 in 2020, after increasing steadily since the year 2000, according to the CDC. From 2007 to 2020, suicide rates for non-Hispanic blacks increased by 39%, from 5.6 for every 100,000 to 7.8 for every 100,000 after years of steady decline. Among Hispanics, suicide rates rose after remaining stable for years. The rate increased from 5.8 for every 100,000 in 2012 to 7.5 for every 100,000 in 2020, an increase of 29%. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in any major podcast app. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.